What would you do if every doctor you trusted told you your kids would never walk? Yeah, that's the sentence I've carried for years, right alongside the billion-dollar contracts, the yachts, the boardroom victories that used to mean something. Before my world shrank down to two little boys in wheelchairs and a house that sounded more like an ICU than a home. My name's Daniel Whitmore, and if you think money shields you from heartbreak, I've got a penthouse full of silent nights to prove you wrong. You want a miracle? Buckle up, because this isn't some Instagram fairy tale. This is the story of how hope broke through my iron defenses, tore the place apart, and built something brand new right where I thought nothing good could ever grow again. They may never walk, Mr. Whitmore. That phrase was branded inside my skull, echoing every time I caught a glimpse of Ethan and Lucas, my twin boys, my last living tie to my late wife, strapped into those custom chairs, their laughter fading a little more each day. The doctors spoke in monotone, under fluorescent lights, and in that moment, it didn't matter how much I'd built, how many jets I could charter, or which corner office I ruled. All that mattered was I couldn't fix this. I could move markets, but I couldn't make my son's legs work. I could bully my way through any negotiation, but inside my own home, I was as powerless as any other grieving parent. After Anna died, her body ravaged by an infection no expert could stop, I buried myself in work, thinking if I just controlled the schedules, the meetings, the endless line of nannies, I could hold grief at arm's length. 19 nannies in 2 years, all with resumes so thick you could patch drywall with them, but not one could crack the ice in my boy's eyes. I stopped believing in breakthroughs and started accepting silence, because silence at least didn't hurt as much as hope dashed over and over again. Then came that November morning, and Grace Miller. The rain was biblical, and I honestly thought HR had made a mistake. She didn't look like any specialist, didn't carry a designer bag or rattle off credentials. Brown hair in a ponytail, a navy coat, gray eyes that didn't flicker with pity. She just asked me, real quiet, what makes Ethan laugh and what Lucas loves most when the world gets heavy. Let me back up a sec. Nobody ever asked about their happiness, only about therapy schedules, feeding routines, measurable outcomes. I didn't even remember what made them happy anymore. Grace just smiled like she could see something I couldn't, and when I brought her to meet the twins, she got down on their level, ignored my well-rehearsed monologue about safety protocols, and started to sing, some jazz tune, low and warm, her hands moving in the air. Ethan stopped fidgeting. Lucas made a sound, an honest-to-God hum. My heart just about leapt out of my chest. 4 years of medical experts, not one breakthrough. And this stranger gets a reaction in 5 minutes. Then Ethan said it. Papa, will she stay with us? You know what I mean? I nearly broke down right there. Grace's eyes met mine, and for a split second, I wanted to believe again, but believing was dangerous. You let yourself hope. It hurts that much more when the world smacks you back down. That night, I stared out at the city, feeling old and raw and more lost than I'd ever admit. Letting Grace in was a risk. I could barely take another hit if she failed, but what if shutting her out doomed my boys to more years of silence? Next morning, she showed up. No uniform, just jeans and sneakers, a big canvas bag full of scarves and toy instruments. I watched her on the camera feed, convinced she was wasting our time, but then I saw Ethan light up as she tossed a scarf like a kite, Lucas pressing a note on a tiny keyboard, the first spark of real joy in that house in ages. It broke something open in me. Still, old habits die hard. I cornered her in the kitchen, cold, formal, rattling off therapy protocols she'd ignored. She just looked at me and said, "Your kids need someone who sees them as boys first, patience second." That stung, because I knew she was right. But belief doesn't rewire nerves. I snapped back. I wanted results, not fairy tales. Grace wasn't fazed. Sometimes belief is the spark that makes results possible. I hated that part of me wanted her to be right. Weeks passed. She made therapy into a treasure hunt, turned rehab into a story. Ethan focused longer. Lucas started humming along, and that stone silence in our home cracked, laughter echoing in rooms where there hadn't been any in years. But I needed proof, not just good feelings. Point one evening, coming home early, I heard music and found Grace supporting the boys at the kitchen island. They were standing, shaky, barely balanced, but standing. Ethan's eyes glowed. Look, Papa, we're standing. Years of expert opinions, undone in one ordinary moment. But doubt clawed at me. Was this real or just a fluke? Dr. Anderson, their neurologist, warned me. Don't mistake reflexes for progress that I couldn't help myself. Invited Anderson over without telling Grace. She ran her usual routine, scarves, music, but the boys shut down under his critical eye. He pulled me aside, called her methods unorthodox, warned me to be careful. That night, I blew up at Grace, told her I couldn't afford to look foolish, that my sons weren't experiments. She fired back, they're kids. For the first time, they believe in themselves. Her anger was real, her belief unshakable, and for a second, I wondered if I'd become the villain in my own story. The final test came when Grace had Lucas reach for a block on his own. He hesitated, legs trembling, and then, by some miracle, he steadied himself. I'm standing by myself, Papa. Time froze. Ethan cheered, Grace's eyes filled with tears, and I felt my world turn inside out. For years, every expert said never, and here was my son, standing alone, but fear is stubborn. I grabbed Grace's arm, desperate. If they fail, if you fill them with hope and they fall, what will it do to them? To me, she just pulled free, fire in her eyes. Do you know what it does to them to never try? That cut deep. That night, her words echoed in my head. For the first time, I realized I didn't have an answer. You ever been so scared of being hurt that you hurt the people you love just to protect yourself? That's where I was. But then, one ordinary Thursday, I heard Ethan shouting for me. Lucas was standing, unsupported, triumphant, his hands on the table, face lit up with pride. I'm doing it, Papa. I'm standing alone. I dropped to my knees and hugged him, tears I didn't know I still had pouring down. From there, it wasn't about walking. It was about fighting for every inch, every wobble of victory, every fall a chance to get up. 9 months after Grace arrived, Lucas took his first steps across the room, collapsing into her arms, laughing like he'd conquered the world. Ethan, slower but just as determined, joined him soon after. Dr. Anderson could barely explain it, but we'd stopped needing experts to tell us what was possible. We had proof, every single day. A decade later, that house is loud and chaotic. Soccer in the yard, piano in the living room, Ethan chasing his dream of flight, Lucas chasing music. Grace never left. She became family, my wife, their mom, a healer for all of us. Together, we built something no amount of money could buy. A life. So what do you think? Was Grace a miracle worker, or did my boys just need someone to believe in them? Would you risk hope again after losing it so many times? Let's hear it. Drop your thoughts below. Tell us where you're watching from. And if this story hit home, hit like and share so maybe someone else out there gets the courage to believe in something impossible, too.